full loot open PvP system is going to work. All right, let's move on to the next question. Sorry we lost air. Someone's telling me we were offline, and you guys just caught us in that last little bit there. So sorry you missed that about the full loot open PvP. Well, I guess we can't do it now.
We don't have time. We lost so much time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well. Okay. All right. I think we were talking about. Let's see. We can start grabbing some stuff, some more questions from the chat.
Whoops, we lost all those other ones, didn't we?
Yeah, so we got to redo those. But I'm just going to start grabbing a few of my old school paper here. Koldar, and I can't tell if he's actually serious in this question or not, wants to know, will player-owned town owners be able to choose or change their weather? Well, so the weather is a system in the game, and the seasons and the time and conditions. So letting you choose the weather.
So the answer to that question is no.
Yes, the answer is no. All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, I think we should do a add-on store credit.
Add-on store credit winner is SAESA, S-A-E-S-A.
All right, and I think we're going to do 2 prizes because we went off air, and there was that whole open PvP full loot incident. So.
Does that mean that they missed us giving away the Alienware system?
The Alienware system.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, we did that right before we discussed the open plans for full loot open PvP.
Right, and we were going to give away this. The
TV behind you, yeah, the 4K TV, yeah.
Yeah, so well. Okay, so another Heart of Britannia. This has some handsome young devil on it.
Handsome!
Not me.
And definitely young, or maybe Richard just got old.
Yeah.
Hey, none of that.
I think it's Richard's younger brother.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
All right. The winner is?
The winner of Richard's younger brother's card is Magatar. Like Minotaur, but with maggots.
All right. Magatar. All right. Let's see. Gino, we were about to answer Casey's question if you would like to do your MC.
Sure. Casey, and again, I apologize. My computer blue screened to death, and you guys missed some good stuff. I'm really sorry. My fault. My bad. Casey would like to know when there'll be more items to craft, and someone in chat earlier also asked about the new chat system or the additions to the chat system and the timeline for them.
You mean the new crafting system, not the new chat system? Yes. Okay. So the new crafting system should be coming online in release 26. That's in January. But we're not letting that slow us down. In release 25, there will be our first iteration of agriculture. So you'll be able to start planting and harvesting. Not sure.
At long last.
Yes. So not sure how many items will be working in that system. At the very least, you will be able to plant an apple tree and get apples out of it. But hopefully, it'll be more than that. There will also be some additional armor recipes as well, and some clothing recipes. So, for instance, there will be a new kind of hat in the game that you can make, at least one, possibly two. And there is rumor that I've heard that you might be able to make some snow people out of your snowballs, out of your snowball box. But we'll see about that. So more stuff.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
Yeah. And in but longer range plans. So for Q1, we're planning to fully flesh out at least, hopefully, the armor crafting. So you'll be able to craft all the armor of all the different types, and we'll have a lot more food, and including the working food system. which means long-term persistent buffs related to food, and also alcohol and teachable recipes. So there'll be a lot more craftable items coming online, a lot more functionality to the crafting system. Oh, and public gardens, too, for agriculture will be coming in Q1.
And I got up and left for a second because I knew I'd seen this guy somewhere before. Right there. There's where I've seen him before. That's it.
All right. We'll answer one from the chat. Are there any plans for a ladder climbing, descending animation, or will it always be an instant teleport? We definitely want to do this. None of us like the current solution we have. It's just a matter of time and resources and things like that.
The way I answered it, by the way, if I may interrupt Star 2 in chat, as I said, look, we actually set up the world where that would be possible in the sense of the ladders really do take three-dimensional space up, and you can look from the top or look from the bottom and see the other end generally, unless it's changing maps. And so we are capable of doing that, but obviously but it's not currently on our episode 1 punch list. And so I predict we will eventually get there. I just don't predict it'll be in episode 1. But we're not doing anything that would cut it off, so we should be able to in the long run do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get in there. It's I think most people know that we check for things on the server to make sure people aren't cheating. The ladders are one of those that come up that we have to handle the case of. Ladders, because they let the player teleport in a non-normal way. Yeah. So it already shows up on our servers that we had to account for that track.
Which then brings up the case study of as soon as you can walk up ladders, you have to be able to be hit while you're on the ladder, and then what does that make you do, etc. So we'll get to it eventually. Yeah. Not now.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep going.
Our next question is from the website. She would like to know what pledge levels will survive episode 1 launch. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so this is probably triggered by the several rounds of explorations we've been doing on the pledges. The pledges as they exist now, once we go to full commercial launch, will go away. That's for sure. However, we still will have various, what we might call VIP or collector packages that will be. Some of them will look and feel similar to the pledges we have now, i.e., it might come with a lot and a house, but there will be fewer of them, so there won't be as many different ones as we have now, and the number of items in each will be smaller than they currently are. So I know that's not an exact answer, but so again, the short answer is there will be less of them, and they will have less items in them. So now is the time.
Yeah, the short answer is we'll keep simplifying them as we get closer and closer to live.
Yeah.
We have a question from Logan. He would like to know. Sorry, I've got feedback loop. How will distant viewing work for the Spyglass in game?
Yes, so there is, in the stretch goal store for boats, there is a Spyglass, and it will work, our current plan is it will work very similar to what you see in other games, i.e. It will do things like increase the culling distance and LOD distance, so things that normally would have been culled out of your view or go to lower LODs. That distance will be extended, and we'll narrow the field of view. So do the classic, there'll be a round circle on the screen with dark edges around it, and so what that will do is it will basically let you see farther than you currently can. As far as it using it to do things like see stealth characters and things like that, that's not currently in any of the plans. It's really just a way for you to see farther. That would be a significant anti-stealth power play if we allowed it to increase detection of stealth and things like that. So we're trying to avoid selling power as much as we can.
And in case it wasn't obvious, just narrowing the field of view and extending the LOD distances will make it appear that it's magnified.
Yep.
All right, our next question comes from Redfish, and he wants to know what's going on with tumble and combat rolls.
So this is ongoing as we try to make defense a little bit different than what used to be. A lot of the changes I'm sure people saw over R22, 23, and 24 had to do a lot with the armor and trying to get rid of more armor damage absorbing things that were really slowing down combat in a huge way and making plate mail essential. But one of the other changes came up was tumble turned into evasion. It's actually the same skill with just some modified results, and part of that was just it was a skill that had a animation associated with it that tumbled you out of the way, but it always tumbled you in the same direction, and the skill was a over time skill. It wasn't instantaneous, so you would tumble left, and then for the next 30 seconds you'd have the tumble skill active on you, the defense on it. So we actually moved that to be a you don't tumble, you just evade, and it's called evasion now. We removed the tumble part of it because it didn't seem to make sense if you didn't actually, play the tumble animation. But it's still in there. It still does nearly the same thing. It just doesn't have the animation that moves you off to the side as if you'd like double tap left or right.
But the animation was cool. Is there any way you're going to still see the animation?
Tap left, double tap left or right.
All right, okay.
Choose which direction you tumble in. That is actually useful for those people who've tried paying attention, like fighting the troll or fighting other things that have tells and slow attacks, as you really can use those to get out of the way, and they still are the most effective way to dodge those attacks.
And didn't we add, or are we about to add the double tap forward for the
Tumble forward.
Tumble forward.
Yeah. I think it's in this.
Is it in R24?
I think the animation's on the list for R24. I don't know if the actual implementation's in.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. Guess we could do.
Do we want to do a prize?
Oh,
Another question?
yes. Let's do another add-on store credit, please. This air feels kind of dead in here, doesn't it? Isn't it dead? It feels a little dead.
It's a little dead, yes. Add-on store credit winner is Nero, N-E-I-R-O.
Nero! Where's Finn?
Finn moved down. Finn, wave people. Wave at the people.
You're supposed to do congratulations when somebody wins something.
Yeah, they missed the Finn.
Photobomb, Finn. Photobomb. Oh,
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Gankable player, we'll take this one from chat, wants to know what kind of performance optimizations are currently being addressed.
Well, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the polish release, the polish and performance release, was not a polish and performance release. I will point out that we did double the frame rate in a lot of scenes this release with a patch, but that's only because we cut the frame rate in half on the opening day, as a lot of people were complaining that frame rate in Owl's Head and other places was half what it used to be. But we fixed that. But anyways, there's a ton of different things that we're planning. I think I mentioned earlier on the Baron's Head that that's part of the reason why Baron stuff has not been prioritized, is we wanted to get the Duke Head. There's a lot of character optimizations. In terms of graphic stuff, most things still do not have LODs. Most things are not loading in the method that we want them to, which is a load time performance issue. Let's see, memory side of things, we have 0 collision geometry. So when you see that pretty 3,000 poly chess piece, it's actually using those 3,000 polys for the collision geometry, which is actually really expensive both in terms of performance and also memory. And actually, on a lot of those, we do use concave, convex. We'll switch it to a whole test. But anyways, there are a lot of tests going on. The biggest optimization area that we have to go is also the one that we've kind of been postponing just because it's highly in flux, which is the characters. Because the characters are made up of a lot of different pieces, and that means that there's a lot of different draw calls with them. We're not baking them into a single sheet, single material, because characters can customize things so heavily. We're working on a solution for that. One and only is doing some amazing stuff on that. But right now he's very much still in feature cram mode. We will get to optimizations within the next 3 or 4 releases. Hopefully we'll have a major one in, which will be a light manager system for character lights. Because that is honestly what kills frame rate the most, is lots of character lights and shadows in the world.
Okay. Next question.
Firefly Girl would like to know if there's any chance we can get some basic information about celestial bodies.
So I'm disappointed by you guys because I think I mentioned it in previous Hangouts, but the celestial bodies are all set up on planned times and could be predicted as to what the lineup times are. I was expecting people to have the calendar already built out and published to the world showing exactly when the planets line up and when there's going to be like a 5-planet alignment or an 8-planet alignment. As to the fiction, I'll let Richard manage it, but I'm throwing down the challenge there for you guys to try and figure out the math behind the very, very predictable rotations on the stars.
And I would like to back up your challenge just because I actually think it would be really cool. I mean, we worked together to kind of make sure that the rhythm would be such that it would make for good game frequencies for alignments, and so we know the kind of the general pattern of those alignments all the way out, but none of us, including you and I, know the exact dates where certain things will happen. And so I think an app that players could have that our website where we could go do that would not only be cool for the players, it frankly would help us. If we can see and predict that certain planetary alignments are coming up, you can bet that we will put events in the game, both automatic events that line up at those same moments, or if anybody's doing any live GMing, we'll role play around those dates also. And so
throw down the extra incentive, which is that system worked so well, and if you didn't actually have the planets there, it would feel very unpredictable. It's like if you were just able to see when things line up. So we used a modified version of that same type of logic and math system for the weather. So players now with the new weather stuff, people may think that the weather feels kind of random, now that it's not like it rains every Tuesday like it was for a while. But it is actually 100% predictable through math. There are no random functions in that. We want to make sure that it's all completely predictable. So if they can figure out the solar prediction stuff, then they should be able to take the next step and extrapolate on the weather.
And when you asked a little bit more about the planets, one thing we did, we talked before the Hangout today, we talked about discussing the names of the planets, but I'm not quite still settled. I mean, I think they have the general pattern of the names, but I want us to have a little time to debate and discuss a couple of those. But basically, you'll notice there's 8 planets in the sky. They relate to the 8 virtues. Those alignments will be directly related to the activities that go on associated with the main plot and the obsidians that you may hear tell about periodically, and the movements of their leaders around the world. So that basis, that astronomical, mechanical basis of spiritual influence into the world is already now well set. But until we do 2 things, you won't see much more data about that. One is there is a sky layer that's actually in every sky right now, I believe, but you just can't see it, which is the sky layer that shows the constellations, the outlines of the constellations in the sky. So we actually created that sky layer at the same time as we created the sky, and you will find there are virtue constellations that if you look up right now in that sky at night, you can see those constellations. But we're eventually going to give some of the people get a special. I can't remember if we're selling it or is it in a pledge level or I can't remember. Star, maybe you can jump in here in a second. The ability, the object that will let you see. It's not doesn't exist yet. None of the above. But the intent was when we designed it to let some players ultimately have the ability to see that layer of the sky, just so they can learn the constellations and pass that knowledge on verbally to their friends who don't have this ability to magically see the constellation lines. And so anyway, all that will come. The constellations are there now. The invisible layer of the sky is there now. Some of you can probably hack it into visibility if you're clever. But in any case, much more to come on the constellations in the sky.
Well, and speaking of things in the sky, that's the theme of our next two prizes. Yeah, huh? You like how I did that?
Good segue.
Yeah, thank you. Oops, I'm holding that one upside down. Well, there is no upside down in space. Okay, so Richard, would you like to explain these two prizes, and then Lum will tell us?
Absolutely. So many of you know that in 2008, I made a little off-planet sojourn, and you may also know that my father was a NASA astronaut, and I flew 35 years after his first flight, 25 years after his second flight. As I flew privately on a Russian Soyuz to the International Space Station. And the two objects you're seeing on screen on your left is what is called a QSO card. That is a contact card because I used a ham radio to speak to ham radio operators around from space. That is my call sign W5KWQ and my father's call sign W5LFL. And we made these and sent them out actually to people that I made contact with from space. The other item is my mission patch, which is based on my father's mission patch. He used Leonardo da Vinci's drawing of man as the centerpiece of his Skylab flight, and so I kind of made an homage to that for my mission patch. This is says Generation 2 on there. You'll even notice, by the way, a little bit of trivia. There's a little triskelion between Generation 2 and Richard Garriott. That is the homage to Tabula Rasa, actually down there in the bottom, because we were launching Tabula Rasa about that same time. So these two prizes, are they going to give these same two prizes? Same person gets both of these, Star, or how are you going to do that?
Two different prizes.
Two different prizes, okay. So, Lum, back to you for giving away these two prizes.
All right, the mission patch winner is less than, L-E-S-T-H-A-N, and the photobomb is won by Finn, and the QSL card is won by Pete Wee the Disoriented.
All right, congratulations, Less Than and Pete Wee the Disoriented.
All right, we have time for a few more questions. How about that open PvP?
Sorry, I got lost. Miracle Dragon would like to know if the dev team has a seamstress or tailor that makes the in-game clothing in real life for LARPing.
Yeah, and I think the second half of that was when will we see the devs in the holiday bodice ensemble? So
that sounds like a dare.
Yeah, Richard, when are we going to see you in the holiday bodice ensemble?
I'll do it when you do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's certain things that cannot be unseen.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I might have to fly into Austin for that one.
Yeah.
No, wait. I thought we were talking about in the virtual world, not in the real world.
Oh, no, this is the real world.
Yeah, that's more difficult.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I feel about dressing that way. That would be challenging.
Yeah. All right.
But I think the offer still stands.
Really? Okay. I don't think you understand. All right.
Amassing wants to know when all the dies will be back in game.
Wait, Richard. So sorry to stay on this. Do you remember the album cover I was on, Richard?
Yes, that's a good point, man. You have posed nude for an album cover. But don't forget, you remember the peanut butter skit? You know, we did it together.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. Anyway, moving on.
No one knows what you guys are talking about.
That's okay. They'll Google it. They'll figure it out. Or some nefarious person will provide them.
Dyes. I think we were talking about dyes.
Oh, dyes. What about dyes? Something about dyes. Uh-oh.
When will we be back in game?
Oh, right. Hopefully coming up on this release, we will have not only dyes back in the game, multiple colors of dyes, and the ability to do primary and secondary dyeing on cloth clothing and cloth armor. So you'll be able to pick a primary and a secondary color when you dye something. And I think Q-Ball, our character lead, is going to be posting some stuff about this in the forums pretty soon now. And it's going to be very cool. All right. Everyone's frantically trying to do peanut butter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I noticed the peanut butter skit. I know we're devolving here, but I know the peanut butter skit, I just checked. It's not up on YouTube anywhere. Of course, we could fix that. I've got it.
Yeah. Okay, move.
Gaia wants to know about the healing tree. Right now, it's easily accessible and necessary when soloing. Are there plans in place to alter this?
There's not plans to do too much in altering or nerfing the healing tree. I think with this release, it's actually to a point that it's pretty reasonable. The death tree is kind of, it had always been the plan that the life and death would be opposite. You kind of have to have one or the other if you want to restore your health. And that the other quadrants would be, other schools would be more about defense and protecting and keeping yourself from getting damage and doing damage rather than death. I do plan on, I hope to expand that so we add healing to at least a couple more schools around there, so it's not, you know, so people who are into sun magic or moon magic have options as well. But I will remind people, like you, if you're depth focused and you have the right passives and you're attuned to it, you can be pretty effective healing yourself with death magic if someone's around. But it does, that was one of the intentional plans for the opposing schools of magic, is if you are heavily death attuned, it makes life magic less viable because you heal at a lower rate. And vice versa being true, if you're high on attunement for life, it makes death magic less. But anyway, so yes, there are some plans to move around and have other ways to heal. Probably not for R25. Another thing that I was actually just discussing in chat before coming over here was adding a passive for life magic that would increase healing amounts to players other than yourself, which is something for people who want to play the cleric or play the healer. It's actually kind of healing, because then we can actually crank up the heal amount a little bit for that, so that you can be a more effective healer, but only on other people, not healing. But anyways, yes, some changes will probably come before live, but slowly. We're kind of trying to move things a little more slowly now that we feel we have things to a pretty close balanced state. I talked a lot. What is that?
I don't know. That's
Well, whoever that was posing for that album wasn't technically naked because they were wearing a hat.
They were wearing hats. That's true.
That's true. And Star, I can't find the peanut butter skit with you and me in it yet, but I have found the one with Robert, so I'll maybe put up a freeze frame of that in a minute.
Okay. All right. Next question.
The next question comes from Raven Swiftbow. He would like to know if we will be able to use all of the granite blocks we're collecting to make duplicate versions of castle walls.
Yes, and we're hoping to get that recipe in for release 25. So yes. And I think there was a follow-up later about...
There is a follow-up. He wants to know, if that happens, will we be given more than 130 lockdowns in a player-owned town so we can actually use them?
Yes, long term, we hope to greatly increase the number of dynamic objects that a player-owned town owner can put down. Right now, we just can't and it's purely because of performance. And again, those of you who visit heavily decorated towns can see that until we do more optimizations, we can't afford to raise any of those limits, and that counts for player-owned town limits. That counts for limits on lots. That counts for vendor limits, etc. All those limits.
And the more I go and see what players are doing with that stuff, the more I really want to increase that number and get that up higher. Just because it gives them so much flexibility for making such creative things. And it's awesome.
Yeah. All right, I think we have time for one or two more questions before we start wrapping up and give away the final prize.
Celine Noctua would like to know about taming. She's excited about all the work that's gone in so far, but wants to be able to train the actual house pets. So I'm reading this correctly.
Well, I think there was two parts of it. One about training. Will we ever be able to train pets to make them stronger?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and so yes, but unlikely for episode 1. Although we do have some ideas, not for necessarily doing level progression for pets, because that would basically be a whole progression system that we're not necessarily going to have time for. But we do have some interesting ideas for allowing you to cast buffs on your pets, or like the one we came up with the other day that Beezus came up with was taking the stances, the stance buffs like we have, like Berserker stance and things like that, and allowing you to put those on your pets to change their play style slightly. So we want to experiment with that in the next few releases. So there'll be something like that, but not a pet level progression system.
And we have 2 add-on requests from both Amara, who would like to request Chinese New Year decorations, and Duke Albert, and a lot of other people who would like to request and see the Winter Theater in the add-on store.
Yeah, so thanks, Amara, for the suggestion about Chinese New Year's. Some of you guys who looked at our schedule might know Fireworks. So we sold the Fireworks box last few holidays, but it hasn't had any function. But starting this release, you'll actually finally be able to shoot fireworks off. And so that's going to be, we're going to be selling them, that's going to be in this release, and we're going to be selling them for New Year's. But we'll do another version of Fireworks for R26 in January, because that's just a couple of weeks before Chinese New Year, beginning February. So we'll be doing another set of fireworks that we'll release for that, in honor of that. And then as far as the theater, so that theater I think you used for the screenshots from one of the new maps that we released, Mariah's Overlook. And good suggestion. We will take that into consideration. That thing is huge, so not sure. You'd need a lot of flat space, but maybe smaller version or components.
Yeah, it's going
of
to
that.
break it up into the individual chunks.
Yeah. So good idea, and we will put it into the queue.
And I want to just mention one more thing about fireworks too. One of the things I'm excited about fireworks specifically, as a guy that is really into fireworks, is that one of the fun things we can do now with fireworks is each time we bring up fireworks, whether it's a traditional New Year's, Chinese New Year's, 4th of July, Bastille Day, whatever times we bring out new fireworks, we can bring out a literally new visual effect of firework. And so what that means is that players will actually be able to put together over time, coordinated, diverse fireworks displays that might, have the traditional mortars that put out big chrysanthemums. You might have fountains that make certain kinds of effects. You might have one of my favorite Saturn missile type things that shoot out tons of little missiles. Eventually you might even put in more of the medieval style pinwheel things that rotate. Whatever it might be. And that way, as you collect these, you'll be able to ultimately put on more and more elaborate and more, frankly, interesting displays that I think will be an artistically cool thing to do as a player. At least I know I'll want to.
All right. I think we have time for one more question before wrap up.
Okay. And speaking of YouTube videos, I think there's a Firework YouTube video somewhere, if I remember correctly.
Well, there's definitely opening up here with a rocket. There's that one. I don't know about the fireworks.
Ooh, that's worth. I'm gonna Google that one and put it in the chat room right now. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Lord Lawn has a question about Grandmastery, specifically how it applies to smelting and salvage.
Oh yeah, and so Lord Lawn was noticing that some of the leveling effects of getting up to Grandmaster level for smelting and salvage aren't as effective as they should be. That's one of two things. Either that's a bug, which should be written up, or it's just a symptom of us putting some placeholder data in there and not having time to really tune it well. So that's great feedback. If you could post that in the bug forums, that would be great, because it should be better than that for sure. But again, none of that's been really tuned or balanced properly. So, but the more feedback and the more detailed feedback, like you provide in that question, it'd be great for us to have in a bug report. So, thank you for reporting that. And let's do our final grand. We'll do an add-on store credit and our final grand prize, and then we'll do some wrap-up stuff. So, Lum, if you could do the add-on store credit, please.
The add-on store credit is won by Rodrigo. Rodrigo wins $10 in add-on store credit prize.
All right, and then our final grand prize of this hangout is the Razer Tartarus Chroma, and this is a left-hand replacement WASD device.
And make sure and pick someone like in Australia or New Zealand or someplace that's really hard for me to ship to, because that's what I really love.
Okay, well, that depends on where Lady Vixen is, because she's the one who won that. Lady Vixen with an O has won a Tartarus Chrome.
Hooray, Lady Vixen!
Congratulations! And with things like this, I mean, I know most people will definitely want their collectible item like this, but for more commercial products like this, you always have the option to choose store credit if you wish. Just a reminder. All right. With that said, Richard, would you like to lead us off with your closing thoughts?
Absolutely. Hey, by the way, just to circle back, like we said at the beginning, 2 years of releases since the Chicken Room. Very, very excited to be building this for you. Couldn't do it without you in so many ways. And also my congrats and thanks to the team that despite these short cycles that we've had through both Thanksgiving and coming up here in December because of the holidays coming up this month too, they're very short cycles, but I've been incredibly impressed with how much content the team has been able to put in. To be perfectly honest, I try to play the game as often as I can, and I have a very hard time now keeping up with the rate of content going into the game. Even on this Hangout, I heard about a few new features that I hadn't even heard about till today, so I'm going to have to go explore them in the game alongside you guys. Some of you that I run into playing often see me stumped and mystified, when people started throwing snowballs at me. I'd go, oh yeah, snowballs work. So in any case, thank you to all of you, our supporters, and thank you to the team for just rocking it month after month for 2 years now.
I'll go next. All the same stuff Richard said. It's been great 2 years, and looking forward to making and wrapping up a lot of these game features. And as our list gets smaller and smaller, it gets even more exciting. I just want to remind people I will be on the chat afterwards, the website chat, answering a few questions there. I do have to go pick up my daughter in about an hour, but I will answer as many as I can. And also a reminder, anyone who won a prize today, who actually has a physical prize they want shipped to them, make sure and get your address in early, and I'll make sure and get it to you for Christmas. Thanks, and I'll turn it over to Star.
So, thank you, as always. You guys make it possible for us to make this. And thank you especially for your patience, as I said earlier, and as I said in my post. Take a little longer, but you guys have been incredibly supportive of that and allowed us to continue to do that. So appreciate that. We want to make the right product. We don't want to make a product at a certain time, and that takes a little bit of extra time. So we appreciate it, and we appreciate your patience. And we're having a great time making this. We hope you're having a great time playing it, and we look forward to many more years of working with you. Thank you so much.
And I'll wrap us up by saying a final thank you, definitely not the only or last thank you that we'll have for you guys. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for putting up with the technical difficulties. Believe it or not, we did not lose any viewers between the first dropout and coming back in. And you guys didn't even riot when you missed the PvP section. So thank you. I really do appreciate that. If you want a prize, I will be getting in touch with you sometime in the next day, sometime before tomorrow afternoon. So if you get your addresses to me by Monday, I'll get those over to Chris right away so you can have something under your tree, something awesome. Thank you again, and we will see you again next month.